Now we move to the next meeting in which Mr. Richard Parrott will be presenting a workshop under the title The Psychological Undermining of Well-Being, Understanding what is needed for students and teachers to feel a sense of well-being while implementing a hybrid learning environment. Mr. Parrott is from the Parrott Academy for Human Values. He's an author, speaker, coach, and internationally recognized thought leader on the evolution of human values and business and society. Everyone, please remember that you can always add your input and questions in the chat feature. The attendance link will be posted by the end of this meeting. Mr. Parrott, please start your presentation. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. I hope you can all see and hear me. And
yes, we can.
Okay, good. So I'm going to talk today about something that's fundamental to every child and every teacher. And I'm going to talk about the psychological underpinnings of our personal evolution. That's our individuals all over the world move through these stages of development. So I'm going to share my screen now. Just give me a moment to do that, and I'm going to put it in presentation mode. Can everybody see that? The psychological underpinnings of well-being.
Still give it a second. It's not visible still.
Okay, it seems to be. Can you see it now?
It is still not visible. The screen, the material is not visible on the screen yet. Can you please reconnect again? Can you?
Okay. Can you see me or my screen?
Yes, Mr. Parrott, the video is visible. We can see you, but still the data, the presentation is not on the screen.
Okay. Share screen. Okay. I'm going to hit the share, open share. Okay. And I'm clicking on the share screen. You should be able to see it now. Can you see it?
It's still not there. I'm trying to cover also the comment of the audience, and they're also not seeing your presentation. They can see your video, but they can't see the presentation. It's not there.
Well, I'm clicking on the share screen.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm sharing, and then I'm going to share. Okay, I've clicked on the screen. I want to share.
Still not there.
I'm afraid I don't know what to do. It says stop sharing. I've stopped sharing. You should be able to see me now.
Yes, when you do the stop sharing, you take the full screen mode and we can see you. But when you reconnect the screen, when you share the file is not there. It does not show on the screen for some reason. So let me talk to our producer. Just a minute, please.
Doctor, can you please reshare your screen?
I'm clicking on the open share tray.
Yes, open share screen.
All right.
And you click on the screen one. Do you have screen one? To the left option, the first one.
Yeah, screen one. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, click on screen one option. And it's supposed to take us directly to mirroring your screen, your laptop screen. Whatever you see, we can see. So still not there. Yes, yes, yes. It's yes, we are connected. Can you open the PowerPoint so we can see if it's
okay? It's open.
Okay. Did you open the PowerPoint, Mr. Richard? Or
yes, I did.
Okay, can I ask you one last time, please, to reshare again, because I can see your screen, but it's very vague. It's not clear, as if the network is not strong enough to broadcast a very clear image. So if you can reshare the screen again, yes. Hopefully this time it works 100%.
Yeah, let's hopefully do that. All right. I like hopefully. Okay, screen one. Do I want screen number one?
Yes, screen number one.
Okay. All right. Can you start? It says presenting. Can you see now?
I'm still waiting for the feed to reflect your screen. Still yet, nothing there. We were lucky the last time, so partially lucky. So can I ask you one more time, please? Bear with me. Can you please reshare again?
Okay, I've stopped sharing.
Stop sharing, then share.
Open share tray. And then do I do screen number one?
Yes.
Or desktop? How about that? Okay, can you see that? Okay, I'll just probably have to do it without the presentation, okay?
Yes, sure, go ahead. Thank you. The video is more than enough. Thank you.
Okay, all right. So can you see me?
Yes, we can. We can see you and hear you very clearly.
All right, okay. All right, so I'm going to be talking about the psychological underpinnings of well-being. We all want to have a sense of well-being. Both students and teachers need a sense of well-being. And that's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about, first of all, I'm going to talk about, well, what is well-being? Then there are 7 stages of human development that impact students and teachers. I'm going to talk about those stages, and then I'm going to talk about the importance of the classroom culture. And finally, about creating a values-driven environment. I have a video, but I'm afraid that we'll not be able to see it, which would be a pity. So what is well-being? So well-being is the feeling you get when you're able to satisfy the needs of the stage of psychological development that you're at. And there are 7 different stages of psychological development. And it's fundamentally important, I believe, for teachers and parents to understand the psychological needs of their children at each stage of their development. Now, I say parents, yes. Of course they need to understand, and you are a parent for life, so even though your children may be young, maybe teenagers or maybe young adults, you still need to help them and help them understand the stages of development they're going through. So before I actually get into that, it's really important to understand that actually a lot of mental issues start early on. And some data from the United Kingdom shows that 1 in 10 children aged 5 to 16 have some diagnosable mental condition, and half of all mental health problems are established by the age of 14, and 3/4 of all mental health problems are established by the age of 24. So why is that? It's because during the first 20 years of our lives, our minds and our brains are growing and developing, and every experience we have is recorded. And the big issue is, are we getting our needs met? So I'm going to talk about the 7 stages of psychological development. And I'm also going to talk about 4 minds and 3 brains. Most scientists have a tendency to think about our mind and our brain as a single operating whole, but it is not. We have 4 minds and 3 brains that control our reflexes, behaviors, and decision making. And the 4 minds become dominant at different periods of our life, and particularly 3 of them during our childhood. So what are these 4 minds? Well, I'm going to talk first of all about the soul mind. So I'm assuming, and not everybody may agree with this, but everybody is a soul or has a soul, and that soul is present from the moment of inception. And after about 3 months in the womb, the reptilian mind brain forms. That's the reptilian brain, and this mind attached to this brain is focused on one thing, and basically physiological survival. I'll speak more about that in a minute. And then comes along the around the age of 18 months or 2 years, the limbic mind brain becomes dominant. This is the emotional mind. And around the age of 7 or 8, the neocortex, or the rational mind, becomes dominant. So we have the soul mind, the reptilian mind, which is the body mind, the limbic mind, which is the emotional mind, and the neocortex, which is the rational mind, all come and become dominant during those first 7 or 8 years of our children's lives. And the rational mind goes on developing until around the age of 20 or 21. Now, this is why teenagers do really stupid things, because they don't have a fully functioning brain. So everybody on the planet is on a personal journey. The first stage of this psychological development is surviving. That's up to the age of about 18 months. And then comes the conforming stage, which is from about 18 months to 6 or 7. And then differentiating stage, from about 8 years of age to about 20. These are the stages that correspond to the growth and development of these different brains and minds. We can call this stage of development the stage of ego development. Then comes the individuating stage. This is where you begin to look at everything you've been taught and believe, and begin to look at your parental and cultural conditioning and decide to become more independent of that. So you begin to question the thoughts and beliefs that you learnt in your childhood. Is this who you really are? Is the big question. And this begins in the early 20s and goes on till the 30s. Now, this is the start of what I call soul activation. The soul was present in the beginning, and it, as each mind has become more dominant, it is pushed into the subconscious and the unconscious. And we begin to recover this sense of soul at the self-actualizing stage, which is in our 40s. So we move through the individuating stage, where we find freedom and autonomy to be who we really are. And then we find our true gifts and talents as we get into our 40s. And we want to find meaning and purpose through those gifts and talents. And that's called the self-actualizing stage. This is what I've described so far is pretty much what Maslow described. And what I've done is I've added extra depth and dimensions to this self-actualizing stage. So once you've got through your 40s and you find some meaning and purpose in life, what you love to do, you want to express your gifts and talents, then you move in your 50s into that integrating stage where you want to make a difference in the world, and you make a difference by making your gifts and talents available to people. And then when you get to your 60s, it's called the serving stage. What you really want to do here is just be of service to humanity and the planet. Now, I'm going to go over these in more detail right now. And each of these stages has with it certain needs. And these needs are necessary to be fulfilled in order to master a particular stage of psychological development. So I'm talking here about children, just at the same time I'm talking about teachers too, or the growth of children into adults. So what about the surviving stage? So that's starts really at the moment of inception and goes on till around 18 months or 2 years of age. And the motivation here is staying alive. The reptilian mind brain, the body mind, is dominant. The baby thinks it lives in this world of oneness and hasn't really yet identified the fact that there is separation in the world, but gradually that separation begins to dawn on the child. But it's about getting the basic physiological needs met. You know, those babies, they need to be fed, they need liquids, they need to be held, and they need to sleep, and they need to be cared for. But when that baby cries out because it has a physiological need that is not satisfied, it's hungry, for example, or it has a wet bottom or whatever, and it cries out, when the parents are attentive and do something about it, the baby learns that it can manage its environment. It's not yet aware of this environment, but magically this physiological need that they have of hunger, for example, disappears because food appears. So babies who are well nurtured like that grow up trusting their environment. Babies who are not well cared for grow up to become micromanagers because they can't trust the environment in which they live to get their needs met. So there are strong links between these early stages of development and the later stages of adult development, and that's one of my main points. Then now comes the conforming stage, which is from 3 to 7 years of age. The motivation here for that child is keeping safe. You'll notice that children at this age, they will move away from their parents, but if they get too far away and feel unsure, they'll run back. So keeping safe is really the motivation. And this is when the emotional mind is dominant. So the reptilian mind brain now becomes the subconscious of the conscious mind, which is the emotional mind. And so keeping safe is fundamental. And in order to keep safe, you have to learn to be loved. So you try to conform to the parental and teacher conditions that would enable you to feel loved. You want to feel this acceptance and belonging to the group so that you are feeling safe. So this is that second stage of development up to about 8 years old, when the emotional mind is dominant. Then comes the beginning of the teenage years, about 8 or 9 years of age. What happens is that the rational mind now becomes dominant over the emotional mind. The emotional mind becomes the subconscious, the body mind becomes the unconscious, and the soul mind becomes the super unconscious. So that soul mind, which was there with us at the very beginning, is now deep down in the layers of our psyche. So between 18 and 22 or 23 years of age, the rational mind, or the neocortex, grows and develops, and that growing and development, it isn't fully finished until our early 20s, and that's why I say teenagers do really stupid things, because they don't have that fully functioning brain, and we need to take care of them, make sure they don't do anything too stupid. Well, what's important during this stage, from about 7 or 8 through till the teenage years, is feeling secure. At the earlier stage, you wanted to feel safe in your family environment, but now you're out in the bigger world, and you know you have peers, you have other people that you connect with, and you want to feel secure. In order to feel secure in this peer group, you need to feel recognized, not just by your peer group, but also by your parents. You want your parents to know and understand what's happening to you, what's important to you, and you want to be recognized. And you need to be part of a group, and you can be part of a peer group, but if your parents don't pay attention to you, then you will not feel part of the family group. And you know, if you look at the situation, for example, in America, where you have the shooters teenagers who go in and kill teachers, etc. These are people who never felt recognized by their peers and never felt recognized by their parents, because their parents were always working. So this is fundamentally important, this feeling secure from the age of around 8 to early 20s. And it was during this period that the incidence of suicide really increases significantly. So teenagers begin, when they don't feel recognized, they don't feel part of a group, they get depressed, and if they can't solve that problem, they will just do something really stupid to get attention, or they will become increasingly depressed. Now comes the individuating stage. This is the stage from about early 20s to late 30s. Now, most people on the planet never get to this stage of development because they're fully preoccupied in meeting the needs of the first 3 stages of development, of surviving, feeling safe, and feeling secure. And they had, during their childhood, they had unmet needs. Now, I'm going to give you an example of somebody who is world famous who never got to the individuating stage of development because this person is still trying to get their childhood needs met, and that's Donald Trump. He never individuated. He is still trying to be the best. He's still trying to be loved, and everything he does is trying to fulfill these first 3 stages of development, the needs which were not met. Now, all of the people voting for Donald Trump are in a very similar position because they resonate with who he is. So you see, even in developed society, there are large numbers of people who haven't got to the individuating stage, and it's fundamentally important to get to that stage, especially if you're a teacher, because you want to prepare your children to that stage and move through after they leave school. So what is individuating about? It's about releasing your fears, being responsible and accountable for your life. And when I say releasing your fears, I mean those fears that you learned when you were growing up, like Donald Trump. He never got his survival, safety, or security needs fully met. And so he has fears about not meeting those needs, and therefore he behaves in the way that he does. So we need to minimize those fears. Now, everybody has some of those fears, everybody, but not everybody has them in a deep way. And sometimes people do coaching in order to help them get past these fears. You know, I've lived my life. I'm 75 years old. I can still say that there are some fears that pop up for me that trigger, but I've learned how to master them. So we all have these limiting beliefs we learned during our childhood about not having enough, not being loved enough, and not being enough. But we want our children not to feel that they have everything they need to survive, everything they need to feel loved, and everything they need to feel respected and recognized. So at the individuating stage, what's important is freedom and autonomy to find out who we really are outside of these fear-based beliefs that we learned early on in life. And then we come to our 40s, and some of you teachers may be in your 40s, and this is about self-actualizing. It's in your 40s, you are focused on self-expression. Now, this is the first stage of full soul activation. So the soul comes into incarnates for 3 reasons: to self-express, connect, and contribute. Now, self-expression is about finding your gifts and talents and using them in the world. I myself was a transportation engineer working in the World Bank, and I was 45 years old, and I suddenly realized I was absolutely bored with my career up to that point. I'd loved it. And then I realized that actually what I was interested in and been reading about all my life was psychology. And I needed to shift from being a transportation engineer to being a transformation engineer. And so I left the World Bank and set up the work that I've been doing for the past 30 odd years. So this is when you become fully who you are. You begin to feel the soul impulse of what is it that you came to do with your life. And you find, this is all about finding meaning and purpose. I'm going to explain the links in a moment between the first three stages and these upper stages in a moment. But self-expression is fundamentally important in your 40s, and you get to your 50s, and if you found your gifts and talents, well, you want to connect with other people to make a difference in the world. And you can't make a difference unless you connect. Now, little boys in the age of 2 to 8 years old are often told, be strong, don't show your feelings. Well, what happens then is that when they get to their 50s, they don't know how to connect with people because they don't have the emotional skills to do so. And so they're not able to do that. So it's about connecting in the 50s. It's about developing unconditional loving relationships and empathy and a desire to make a difference. And finally, we get into our 60s, and many of you listening and watching won't be in your 60s, but this is what you can look forward to. It's about contributing. At this age, you just want to make a contribution. We want to leave the world a better place than the world that you experience. So it's about selfless service and compassion and a desire to serve the greater good. Now, I just go back a little bit now to the teenage years. If during the teenage years you didn't develop a healthy sense of self-esteem and didn't feel confident because you were respected and recognized by others, when it gets to the serving stage later on in life, you don't have the confidence to contribute. And this can handicap your sense of fulfillment later. Now, I just want to make another point here. This is the impact of our parental and cultural condition on our self-expression and creativity. Now, I'm looking at a graph, you don't have it in front of you, but I'm going to tell you that research has been done to show that 98% of children at age 5 have genius level creativity. By the time they get to 10 years old, that same group, that only 32% have genius level creativity. By the age of 15, only 10% have genius level creativity. And at the age of 25, only 2% have genius level creativity. So what happened to the creativity of our children? Well, it was actually compressed, suppressed, because we had to fit into the mold that our parents and teachers wanted us to fit into. And so we were unable to fully
Mr. Richard? Yes, can you please disconnect the video and reconnect, because there is a problem with the audio now, like a second ago.
I've disconnected the video now. Can you still hear me? Hello? Hello?
Yes, hello, can you please reconnect the video?
I did.
Feed?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is it okay now?
Still, you're not visible.
but you can hear me okay.
Yes, we can hear you okay, but there was like a buzz in the sound, like occurred suddenly, like 1 minute ago. That's why I interrupted, sorry. So can you
I'm glad.
reconnect? Can you reconnect the cam, please?
Okay, I'm reconnected.
Yes, it's clear. Thank you. And the content is clear and visible for everyone, the presentation as well. Thank you.
Oh, the presentation is visible now.
Yes, after we spoke last time, it went on screen like 4 minutes later. So thank you very much. We can see everything.
Oh, I'm so glad because I spent a lot of time putting together the presentation.
Yes, we are following up, but there's like a slow motion. Sometimes it does not speed between slides very fast. I could see a note at the bottom of your laptop at the beginning saying that the network is weak. Maybe that's the reason the feedback is slow. So no worries, we can see the slides.
Okay, well, I want to thank you for being so charming and helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Please, you can continue your presentation. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Richard, you can continue your presentation.
All right, so I just want to make an emphasis now between the first stage of development, which is surviving. If you develop fears about getting your survival needs met, when you get self-actualizing, you'll find it difficult to self-express. I give myself as an example. I was 45 when I reached the self-actualizing stage. I wanted to stop. I'd reached the height of my career as a transportation engineer. I was bored. I had a fantastic job at the World Bank, and I decided to leave to do something, what I do now, with absolutely no experience and no credentials. And my friends at the World Bank said, "You're ridiculous, you're stupid to do that." And I said, "Well, I can't help it," because I had to self-express. Now, if you have fears about trusting the world, you won't be able to self-express. I met a lady just yesterday who was a very successful New York as a businesswoman, and suddenly realized in her 40s that actually what she was passionate about was painting. And she did a course on painting and is now and has become a very successful artist. So this can happen in your 40s. Now, as we move now for the conforming stage, if you have problems belonging at this stage of development, as I indicated earlier, you'll have problems later on in life when you get to your 50s connecting with other people because you won't have emotional skills. And similarly, if you have problems in the teenage years being recognized and feeling a sense of self-worth, you won't be able to contribute when you get to your 60s. So there's a fundamental link between child development and adult development. And so, in summary, if your ego has fears about surviving, you won't be able to self-express. If your ego has fears about keeping safe, your soul will not be able to connect. And if your ego has fears about feeling secure, your soul won't be able to contribute. So what we want to do is we want to set up our children to be able to have fulfilling lives later. And so we want to focus on self-expression, connection, and contribution, even when the children are young, because this will enable them, when they become adults, to become fully functioning adults who find a sense of fulfillment in the world. So what are the applications for the education of children and teenagers? I'm reaching towards the end of my presentation. I'm hoping to show a video. Let's wait and see. So first of all, the implications are every child is a unique soul with unique gifts and talents. Encourage children's self-expression, their imagination and creativity. We don't want children, their creativity to go down to 2%. We want to try to maintain their creativity at 98% as when they were 5 years old. We don't want to enculturate the creativity out of our children. Therefore, education should be child-centered. So this later on, it make them easy for them to self-actualize as adults because they learned how to express themselves. Secondly, I would suggest soul-centered education. Every child shares a common humanity. We're all part of this universal energy field. We're all connected. And, you know, if you needed proof of the fact that we're all connected, just look at COVID-19. My gosh, we're all connected, you know, everyone in the world is connected. So you need to encourage children to stay close to their souls and care about the well-being of others and the planet, so that they can easily integrate and serve as adults when they get to their 50s. So first of all, child-centered, soul-centered, and then values-centered. To stay in touch with their common humanity, every child should be taught values-based decision-making. Values unite people, beliefs separate people. I mean, when you look at what's going on in the world, you see big gaps of separation between I believe this and you believe that. And we see it very much so in terms of religion. But actually, deep down, we all share the same values because we're all human beings. We share the same soul needs for self-expression, connection, and contribution. So we need to make our education systems child-centered, soul-centered, and value-centered. And what are the implications for teachers? Well, the implication for teachers that first of all, there's a need to be an awareness of these stages of development, so that every teacher and every parent should understand the fundamental needs of children at each stage of development and ensure those needs are met. Now, here we get into this. I haven't spoken much about hybrid, but here there is a fundamental link between parents and teachers. There needs to be a link between parents and teachers where it is understood that the education program is helping children to self-express, connect, and contribute, and that the parents also need to help their children self-express, connect, and contribute. I would say every teacher needs to individuate, move through that fourth stage of development, and every parent should too. Because mastering that individuating stage of development allows you to bring up your children and to teach the children in an authentic way, with integrity, and allow them to be and express who they are so they can reach the fulfillment that their soul's intended for them. And then really create values-based classroom environment. In other words, create a school culture that is values-based. So we want to set an example by giving children an example of how values-based cultures work. So we can do that in the school. We can set up a values-based culture in the school, and they will get an understanding of how values operate. And then when they go out and go into the world, they will then choose to create values-based organizations or values-based institutions. And something else we should do is measure and map values of the school on a regular basis. Now, I'm going to now attempt to show you a video of such a program, a values-based program, which is being carried out in the slums of Kenya, in the slums of Nairobi. And please help me if the video is not working. Please let me know.
Okay. So the screen is still frozen now, just seconds ago. It comes and it goes as if it relies on the network strength. So maybe you can play the video and I'll let you know whether it's visible or not.
I'm going to play it now.
It's not visible. Sorry. The video is not visible, Mr. Richard.
Okay. Let's just give it a second. I comment on the video, although you can't see it.
Yes, sure. Maybe you can explain the video because it's not on the screen.
Okay. Well, this is a school in the poorest area of Nairobi. It's called Kibera, and it's run by individuals who wanted to bring something to the poorest children and teach them things like education, values-based learning, and so we sent one of our values-based teachers to that school, and actually, funny enough, I learned about this school a few years ago because my wife and I contributed through charity to this school. Now, this school really takes in the poorest children, teaches them about values, and teaches them how to operate with values with each other. And it is a marvelous example, and I can perhaps send you that video, and you can see one of them. It's about 6 or 7 minutes long, but it's an amazing example of a values-based school in an extremely poor environment that is equipping these children to prosper in life. The poorest children in Nairobi is equipping them to prosper in life. This little school, because of donations, also has computers. It's one of there are not so many computers in the schools, and so it's really really doing an amazing thing. But it's basically teaching children to about values and how to live a values life. So I just want to conclude. Can you see my last slide now?
Last slide, it says an education system that is child-centered, value-driven, soul-inspired.
Yeah, and that's the conclusion that I want to, that's the big conclusion that I want to come to about my presentation. That every child is a unique gift and has a soul, and that soul came to self-express, connect, and contribute. An education system should take that into account and not to force the creativity out of the child. Secondly, the education should be values driven. It should teach children how to work with values, and there are many examples of that growing all over the world. So children, instead of using their beliefs to make decisions, they use their values to make decisions. And this is a very fundamental difference, and equips children later on in life to make better decisions, which are based on their common humanity. And then lastly, soul inspired. And all I mean by that is that the education system should recognize who fundamentally we are, and should recognize that actually, well, we are souls having this human experience, everybody is, and that we should find what is necessary for us to live a fulfilling life. And what is necessary for us to lead a fulfilling life is self-expression, connection, and contribution. So that's finished, and I have no idea what time it was, time it is. How much time do we have left?
You still have 5 minutes, sir.
Okay, well, I'm going to close down. I'm going to close down, wait a minute. I'm going to stop sharing that screen. Can you see me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Well, I'm glad we got there in the end.
Thank you very much, Mr. Richard Parrott. Is that it for your presentation so far?
Yep. I'm ready.
Thank you, and thank you for your valuable input and ideas. We are very grateful for your presence today, as well as we are to your previous two presenters. And I don't know if we have enough time for a question. Yes, we do. So let me just read one of the questions for you. One of the teachers is asking, your opinion to the what is the suitable time gap you think for a student or a parent to have a mind activation or soul awareness on regards to the hybrid learning changes that is happening now?
Yes. So what is the connection between hybrid learning and the soul activation? Okay. There is no fundamental connection, but what we need to do in our hybrid learning philosophy and strategy is to make sure whether it's a hybrid learning or not, is that our children, the focus is child-centered, and that we should also focus on whatever the child is doing. Is it using its self-expression? Is it able to make a contribution? Is it being taught how to make a contribution with others? Now, in a hybrid learning environment, this is an interesting question, because in a normal school, the children are together and they can learn how to contribute to the well-being of others right there in the classroom. Now, so the question now comes, how can you help children learn how to contribute to the well-being of others in a hybrid learning environment in their homes, because they're going to be spending a lot of time in their homes? So can you actually design tasks for them to do which are linked to how they make a contribution in their home? You have to use your creativity a little bit there, but if these children have brothers and sisters, well, how are they helping their brothers and sisters? How are they helping their parents? How are they making a contribution? It's both in the classroom and at home. We want to be able to teach our children to self-express, connect, and contribute. Okay, I'm ready for another question if you have one.
Thank you for your answer. I agree with you that it was kind of unique question, because the focus of the teacher in this workshop was they were kind of concerned with the how can they get the students to be involved much in the classroom while and communicative enough with their peers in the class, right, while, as you said, everyone is in their own homes.
Yeah, so in making this presentation, I wanted to lift it to a larger level and not just focus on the hybrid environment. I wanted to give an idea of the psychological needs of children and adults, by the way, no matter whether they're at home or in the classroom. And somehow, the hybrid learning environment has to take that into account, as the classroom environment does, and that was my point.
Yes, I agree, but it's, I don't know whether you agree with me or not, but it's easier for a teacher to interact with a student in the class, and all of them to interact with each other and get different responses than they are at home.
Yes, I agree with you.
And it's easier for a teacher to evaluate the students and understand their psychology, okay? In a face-to-face communication.
Yeah, but I believe you're discussing a hybrid environment. In other words, there will be some classroom teaching and there will be home teaching. So the point is to really take full account of what I've been saying in the classroom and encourage the kids to take the children, sorry, to take those ideas home with them. So that you can actually teach these in the classroom or teach some of these ideas, and then they take them home. I mean, in a normal situation, where they're in the classroom all the time, they take their ideas home anyhow. Okay, I mean, when you teach children, they go home and they say to the parents, well, I learned this today, and mom and dad, why is this and why is that? Because they learned it. So you can put this into the minds of children. Yeah, I'm not going to say teach kids to say, well, I want to self-express. No, you want to be able to teach children to say, I'm really excited when I'm doing this. That's self-expression. I'm really excited when I'm doing this. So, you teach that in the classroom, and then they say to their mom, I got really excited today because I did this. Can I do this at home? So, that's an example. Or in the classroom, you can say, in the connecting piece, you can say, we learned something really interesting today. We learned we have values, and one of my values, Mom, is learning, or one of my values is connecting with people, or one of my values is being generous. And we learned about that, and I want to tell you about what being generous means to me. You see, you can do it in the classroom, and they can take it home too.
Yes, yes. Thank you very much for your answer and for your example, the one that you gave, and your ideas into the matter.